Experts say producing crude oil and refined products at a lower cost encourages competitiveness of the market and can also be a challenge to any oil-producing country, hence the need to optimize production systems and leverage market forces for optimum output. Also, Nigeria state oil firms were accused many times of exploiting the current situation to maximize profit. Hence, the federal government's recent directive to NNPCL to sell crude oil to local refineries, including Dangote Refinery. The government also added that this will reduce the strain on the country's foreign spendings and stabilize the pump price of petroleum products. The directive was also explicit that the sales of crude oil and refined products must be made in local currency, the naira, to Dangote Refinery, independent marketers, and of course the distributors. What is the implication of this directive to the economy and the oil sector? Well, these are some of the questions our guests will be shedding light on today's outing as we explore sale of crude oil to local refineries. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I am Nta News24. And of course, joining us in the studio is none other but Senator Dr. Nta News24. He is a lawyer and a former senior special assistant to the President on National Assembly matters. Distinguished Senator, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, and of course, via Zoom, we have joining us Olabode Sowumi. He is the energy expert and public affairs analyst. Olabode, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Okay. So, well, I'm sure that the news of a recent presidential directive to NNPCL came with lots of feelings, which undoubtedly will be felt even within the period of this discussion. So let me start with the distinguished senator who is seated right here with me. Senator, please give us an exposition, if you must say, into what the situation was before this directive by the president.
Well, thank you very much. Let me use this opportunity to congratulate President Tinubu Bola Ahmed, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, for the bold decision he has taken and on the NNPC, because it does appear that NNPC was bigger than the country. And this is the beginning of the solution to the problems of this country. And it is good that he's given directive first that the crude must be sold to Dangote Refinery and to other refineries, because in times past, the NNPC had been very interested in selling crude to countries abroad. That is why they were not interested in any of the refineries working. But they will have staff there that are still paying, and they will apply, they will get so much money and be doing what they call turnaround maintenance, but it has not worked since most of them joined the NNPC until today. Since they started work, it has not worked until today. So the decision by the president is hard, is good, is the best, that they should give crude to Dangote Refinery, because I was shocked that there is a man in this country, there is a living being in this country who can say that the refinery will not have a crude because they have to sell crude and they have to import refined petroleum product. I'm surprised that there is such a man in this country. And I want to say that with respect that, Mr. President, this is just the beginning of your actions. I had on many occasions in public fora and even on this channel asked that the Nigeria should answer one question. Is it the Central Bank of Nigeria or NNPC that owns Nigeria? Or is it Nigeria that owns NNPC and Central Bank? Mr. President showed courage in dealing with the matter of the Central Bank, in carrying out complete surgery on the question of the Central Bank. And I am sure that Nigerians and the world is shocked at what has come out of it, and is shocked at how we got to where we are in terms of the value of our currency. I want Mr. President not to do exactly the same thing only to NNPC. I want him to do more because the situation is worse in the oil sector and the NNPC.
Okay.
Mr. President should, in addition to this directive, set up commission of inquiry to find out how did we get here. Look at the Petroleum Industry Act, cause a review, and then if you said we should have the Petroleum Industry Act, that it will attract investment, but it has attracted more divestment. It has worsened the oil sector. Again, I understand that the NNPC and NPCL upstream and downstream had sold our oil in the future, for the future, and collected money. And Nigeria had pledged our oil in the future and collected money. That is why they did not have enough oil. They may not have enough crude to give to Dangote. We should, at this time, breach the contract, because a country and a person must survive before he can pay debt. Mr. President should cause a complete overhaul, surgery, and complete turnaround of the NNPC. And he shouldn't allow anybody to resign. They shouldn't be allowed to resign, because it will be honoring them. They should be asked to sit and answer every question that's arisen since about 1999, why we have gotten here, and why none of the refineries has worked. How much have they collected in the future, and why none of those refineries have worked. They should be complete surgery, more detailed and more elaborate than what happened in the central bank.
Yes, I can see you're very emotional about this, distinguished senator, but let me get the view of the energy expert, Ola Bode. Okay, Ola Bode, you are an expert in the energy sector. What is your take on this directive from the federal government to the NNPCL?
Okay, thank you for having me. So I'm not a politician and I'm not an expert in the politics of the matter. So my job is to analyze the issues, and then you can come up with your opinion. Everybody can form up their opinions on it. Crude oil is a commodity. So commodities have certain characteristics, that's why they call them commodities. So whether it be cocoa, whether it be gold, whether it be cotton, one of the characteristics is that they are uniform in terms of the form that it is. Another thing is that they have uniform pricing. So if you are selling gold in London or you are selling it in South Africa, it's about the same price. So the same thing with crude oil. Crude oil is internationally priced in USD. It is not just priced in USD. It is one of the sources of sources of forex for Nigeria. In fact, 78% of our forex come from petroleum sales. Now, the implication of selling crude oil to Dangote in USD means that we are going to earn less USD. It's as simple as that. However, there's an upside to it. The upside to it is that it means that Dangote refinery themselves do not have to spend money to go and procure forex for them to buy crude oil. Ordinarily, the only person that profits is Dangote. But, and there's a big but, if Dangote lives up to the expectations of making fuel available to Nigerians and ending the issues with respect to products available, then it will have helped the value chain by making it more fluid. It must be understood that money, the income from crude oil, is not the income of the federal government, but the income into the federation account, which is income for the 3 tiers of government. So if that is reduced, then there's an issue. Then there is also the small issue of the Petroleum Industry Act. There's a line in the Petroleum Industry Act which requires that all proceeds from petroleum be made in USD. So that they won't have a lacuna where somebody can take them to court in violation of the law, there may be a need to amend that part of the act to get this. But I think I haven't said it all. Because we are Nigerians in Nigeria dealing with Nigerian issues, it is important that we don't have a short-term solution to a long-term problem. What does that mean? It means that we shouldn't have a solution for an issue now, that 5 years down the line will be a bigger problem. An example is subsidy. When subsidy was introduced in the early 80s by the Babangida regime, the idea was that it was supposed to be a short-term solution to the issue, which was then the fact that there was no liquidity and people were complaining about pricing. But it ended up becoming a monster because it was not removed on time. There are other issues that can come up. One of it is that it is discounted sales, discounted crude oil sales to the Dangote refinery. What happens when they choose, or if they choose, God forbid, that they go and sell abroad? That would be another form of subsidy for crude oil products. So it is important to have a holistic view at it. It is important that everything falls in line within the law of the nation that has been created. But most importantly, it is important that every single Nigerian keeps a watchful eye, so that those with whom we have entrusted our commonwealth, because practically now, Dangote is operating like it's a government agency. It is having concessions that ordinary private businesses should not be having. So the responsibility on him is larger. To whom much is given, much is expected. So we need to keep an eye on it to ensure that they do the things they need to do. That would be my comment on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Well, distinguished Senator, he was talking about currency there, and you recall that the second part of that directive from the president says sell in Naira. So what is the implication of that directive?
The implication of this is that the directive from the Federal Executive Council and the president is directive to comply with the laws of Nigeria. The law of Nigeria under the Central Bank Act says the Naira, the currency of Nigeria shall be the Nigerian Naira. And so if you are selling any commodity in Nigeria, you must sell in the Nigerian Naira. That is why I've been complaining that all those who buy many things here and then they use dollar to trade, it shouldn't be. So it is proper that it is bought in. And Mr. President and the Federal Executive Council had made it clear that yes, they will give them a particular exchange rate so that it will not, Nigeria will not lose. And again, let me share the view of share with my brother that the question of, yes, he said is a commodity and is a subject of trade.
Yes.
The question of petrol and petroleum products in Nigeria now is no more a question of commodity. It's no more a question of economy. It's not more how much comes into the Federation account. It's not a question of how much Nigeria will earn. It is a question of national security. It's a question of the survival of Nigeria. You know, it's a question, it's national security. And so, like I have always maintained, that the asset, the Dangote refinery, is not an economic asset of Nigeria. It's not an economic asset of Dangote. It is the national security asset. It is as good and as important as the key to our national security treasury. So what I would want to say is this, that we should allow the directive by Mr. President to go through and to sail through and to make sure that this is not sabotaged. That this is not sabotaged. I've said again that we should go on full-scale investigation as to, not the kind of investigation we've been going to turnaround. We should make sure this works and works eventually. I will also say that let the governments of the respective states, the local government, take account of the fact, not just how much comes to them, but does Nigeria survive so that they can have something?
Okay, Senator, talking about the local government and, affecting, based on this directive, how would it affect even the life of the ordinary man on the streets?
The way it affects is that there will be less money spent in the petroleum process. If you have, if Dangote is importing crude, he will pay for the vessel arriving Nigeria, loading in those countries, arriving Nigeria, the vessel. And so that is factored into the cost of the fuel already. And then sometimes the vessel may have to go back without crude. He may have to pay for it. So all that cost element of shipping, transportation, landing cost and all that is eliminated. Okay. And so the cost, because you price your refined product according to the price of the input. you know, the input towards arrival, towards it arriving there. If we have crude in Nigeria and it is piped, simply piped, and delivered at the Dangote refinery,
Yes.
there will be a lot of elimination of the shipping cost.
Okay.
Except perhaps the one of just taking it from the Niger Delta or from point and getting there. But there are pipelines that are linked up to that.
Definitely.
You know, so all that element is eliminated, and so the petroleum crude becomes cheaper available to him. And when he is charging you, he's not going to charge you for the tax, VAT, custom duty, import duty, export duty, excise, and all those elements. It's not going to charge you for demurrage of the vessel arriving. And so, estimatedly, if we do well, a lot of accounting, and I trust President Tinubu and his cabinet that they are going to be very, very calculative, but not under this NNPCO, not the present system. They have to put them aside and get an emergency team. But don't sack them so that they can sit there and answer questions of what they have done to Nigeria.
Okay.
So this is going to be cheaper, better, and so on. And I want Nigeria, as much as we haven't, not that we should go in and take over. We should buy in more into the Dangote, but not buy into the sake of purpose of going to control, so that we don't do the same thing that we did to Warri and other refineries.
Okay. Well said. Well, let's take a breather here and hear the opinion of some Nigerians on this matter, as compiled by Suleiman Abdul Wahab.
It's better. It's a way of patronizing our own. It's a good one. I give kudos to federal government. That will create increased demand for Naira, giving value to our currency. And then reduce demand for dollar.
You know, seeing Dangote building a refinery in Nigeria is a thing of joy to us. And seeing the president giving the NNPC directive to sell crude, not only sell, but sell in Naira.
Then, like other sector, other refinery that is upcoming up, so that there will be a PMS in the country, then everything will be okay in Nigeria.
We are Nigerians. We use Naira and Kobo, so it would be nice if they, if they sell in Naira. So it will also, bring down the, the cost of importation and whatever.
This fuel crisis that is going on right now is one of the biggest issue at hand now, because it is indirectly related to both the cost of food products, food produce, the cost of living.
But notwithstanding, would the directive be followed? Would NNPC adhere to? Would the cabal not thwart the efforts? And with the demand of the local refinery on the crudes that they would demand, will it be delivered to them as required? All the measures have to be put in place by Mr. President, so that local refinery will not have a challenge.
All right, you've heard it from the streets out there, people bearing their minds. Well, gentlemen, I have to ask you, which of these resonates with you? Let me start with our Olabode. Which of these opinions you just watched now resonates with you?
Okay, so basically the demand on the streets, just like anybody else, is going to speak based on his level of understanding and how things do matter to them and all that. To demand on the streets, let us be abundantly clear. What he wants is something that will give him a sense of pride, which in this case is that we have a large refinery, or the biggest refinery in Africa, in Nigeria. That should matter to any human being. And the fact that these products are available cheap. But it should be understood that the fact that Dangote is buying at Naira does not necessarily mean his production cost is going to be cheaper. With respect to distinguished Senator, sir, when you were talking about the cost of, cost of the finished product, the cost of transportation, I think, is less than 10% of the total cost one of the challenges of production in Nigeria is security. Because if you check crude oil production, global average for crude oil production is about $7 per barrel. In Nigeria, it's about $40 per barrel, with most of that cost going to security. So there are things that they need to look at. The other aspect which must be understood is that, I mean, NNPC has their issues. I mean, there's nobody that can doubt that. But it's the same NNPC, contrary to internal directive, that decided that they should invest $2.5 billion in Dangote. And it's the same NNPC and the related that other people in the industry have been accusing of being partial to Dangote. So I don't think that we should rush to pass judgment on the issue. What has happened is differences of opinion. And I do agree that we need to get to the root of the matter. And the root of the matter also means that the investigation has to go across both parties. Because Dangote itself now, by virtue of not just the investment of Nigeria in it, but by virtue of the fact that it has interacted, the expectations of Nigeria are there, is practically a public entity, as it is now.
Thank you. Point well taken. Before you respond to that, Senator Sir, someone out there was worried about the implementation of this directive. What do you have to say to that?
I trust President Tinubu and his team in ensuring the implication, because, like I said, it is no more an economic matter. It is a question of national security. And when national security is involved, the National Security Advisor, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, all the ministers, all the heads of parastatals, everybody in the oil sector, other than the present management of the NNPC, are involved. So it will be followed through.
Okay, so let me take the last question from both of you. Now, how do you see the oil sector with all of this happening now in the next 5 years?
The oil sector in the next 5 years is going to be very interesting, because with this, with the Tinubu initiative, because I want to appreciate my friend Olabode for agreeing with me that there is need for surgery in the NNPC. We've agreed there. And I also appreciate that he has mentioned that security is the most important cost element, making the crude to be up to $40 per barrel. Meanwhile, the international benchmark for production is $7 per barrel. Now, when the Tinubu initiative comes in and it is kicks in, all the matter relating to the security is going to be eliminated. And so the cost of producing crude is going to be cheaper. Second, more.
Our time is up. So
it's going to be cheaper. Okay. And I want to urge that they should also give Dangote some oil blocks, so that he can take responsibility for the production. And they should go into drilling more wells so that we can have more crude. Above all, security is the key, and it will be done. We should blank off the entire exclusive economic zone of Nigeria.
Thank you.
And avoid ships.
Olabode, just one word. Your final word, please. Just one.
I think it's important to know that we have no other economy. We have no other country. So all players must put in their best to ensure that the system works. So for me, it is important that everybody, not scapegoating anyone, but important that everybody brings their experience and everything they have to ensure that the system works. I think that's most important.
Very much, gentlemen. We must apply the brakes right here for today. The time is far-fetched. So let me start by appreciating our wonderful guests, Olabode out there, an energy expert and public affairs analyst. Thanks for your inputs tonight. And of course, our distinguished Senator Nta, who joined us right here in the studio. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And to you, our viewer, thank you so much for always being part of Nigeria Today. Don't forget, the program Nigeria Today airs and on weekdays at 7:30 p.m. on Nta News24. You can also watch a repeat at 10 o'clock in the night, as well as other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I am Mina Daniels. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye.